This is Peter Wacker from Beyond Flat. And if you've been following me or listening to me lately, you might have noticed that I've been saying something's going to happen this month in America. And this has something to do with Florida. Ironically, this tropical cyclone, storm, upgraded, downgraded, Hermine or whatever, however you pronounce it, is it originated in Florida. It was the first time they actually named it a cyclone, or what we call it in Australia, hurricane. And well, I'm just going to show you a few news reports, and then I'll explain what I think is going to happen. Okay?
Well, Tropical Storm Hermine continues to work its way to the north and the east in quick fashion here early on this Saturday. And the concern is later on this holiday weekend, impacts will be felt further up the coastline. In fact, what we're looking at here is a tropical storm warning, and this goes all the way to the central Jersey coastline. A tropical storm watch extending out from there all the way to the eastern tip of Long Island. Wind speeds here could be topping 40, if not 50 miles per hour, and out toward the immediate shore, I think there can be some even higher gusts than that. We're talking about 55 miles per hour and perhaps even slightly higher. So definitely a concern here as we go down the line. But it's not just going to be the wind. We're also concerned about coastal flooding, beach erosion, and some heavy rain. And it's a very sharp contrast here. We go from very quiet conditions over the interior to poor conditions, again, starting off at the Tidewater later on in the morning and then getting it toward the Delmarva, then eventually toward the southern Jersey shoreline. So again, conditions going to continue to deteriorate here. Hermine's kind of trapped in place, low pressure to its west, high pressure to its north and west, and it really just has no place to go, so it's going to stall out. And again, heading in towards Sunday, those conditions will continue to pound the coastline. More so, major flooding is going to be a possibility, extensive beach erosion, and also like...
Now, live from the Super Doppler 10 Weather Center, this is a severe weather alert.
Good morning, everyone. You may have noticed across the bottom of your screen we have a tornado warning now in effect for Dare County, and it's basically for Hatteras, right at Hatteras Village, toward Hatteras Village and the inlet there. A tornado was possibly indicated by radar very, very near the ferry terminal in Hatteras and moving northwestward out in the Pamlico Sound at about 30 miles an hour. Now we're going to take a look at what's going on with all of this. That green area that we've got right there, I had warnings up. I was going to start with things with the tropical storm warning. It covers everywhere along the coastline. There is a tornado watch in these yellow areas, and of course that brand new warning just issued for Hatteras Island and really Ocracoke Island as well. Here's what's going on Super Doppler 10 Live. We've combined a bunch of radars here to give you an idea of what's going on, and you can see this very, very extensive area right on into there of red. Now to the Hampton Roads cities, we've started to see more moderate rainfall. And with that moderate rainfall, we've also seen a little bit of an increase in the wind with that. So yeah, we've seen the rain pick up. We've seen the wind pick up just a little bit. It's not horrible yet into the Hampton Roads cities. Or Elizabeth City, you've got about 37 mile an hour winds. And winds are gusting to around 25, 30 into the Hampton Roads cities. But again, right at Hatteras Inlet. And you can see it between Ocracoke and Hatteras. That's where we've got that brand new tornado warning. But it is moving northwestward and out into the water, so there is at least a little bit of good news out of that. Now, the center of the storm is located right about into here, and it is moving northeastward at about 25, 30 miles an hour. I didn't draw that real well, but again, you get the idea of what's going on with where that is. It's right about into here, and it's going to continue to lift on off to the northeast. A little bit different view of things watching the path closely. You can see some of the rainfall entering the Hampton Roads cities, and it gets a bit more moderate here just in the past hour or so. You can see the wider view. You can see where the storm has been and where it's going. It moved to the north of Charleston. It's into the Wilmington area and now passing to the east of Wilmington and right on up toward Hatteras Island. And you see some of the lightning and thunder. Not all that much lightning, though, over land. And you can see, again, where the center of the storm is right about into here, and that's going to continue into that direction. As of the 11 p.m. update from the Hurricane Center, there's where it was. 50-mile-an-hour winds moving northeastward now at 22 miles an hour. So again, it's right about into here. Here's where it is by tomorrow morning at 8. Still 50-mile-an-hour winds. You can see how narrow this cone is. So pretty good confidence in where this thing is going initially. By Saturday evening at 8, so again, Saturday morning at 8, and Saturday evening at 8, it slows down and it increases its strength. So we're going to get some action out of this in terms of tidal flooding coming up tomorrow morning, especially at 11 o'clock. Sunday morning at 8, 65-mile-an-hour winds. It's no longer tropical. It's still a strong storm. 70-mile-an-hour winds Sunday evening at 8. And then by Monday evening at 8, hurricane force winds. And there's where it is coming up by Tuesday. So again, this thing is really going to hang around for a while. And here's why. Look at this. Look at these forecast models. They're just all over the place once we get past the day tomorrow. Tides are going to be the thing to watch. Highest tide is going to be tomorrow morning. Join us at the top of the next hour.
Okay. So, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Well, this is what I'm talking about. If you don't know about Tesla tech, the Hutchinson effect, that's the Hutchinson effect. What's that lady's name? Well, I can't remember her name. But she was... Oh, what was her name? Oh, I can't remember. You might know who I'm talking about. She was a lady that was talking about weapons that were used on 9/11 to bring down the towers. She's the lady that coined the term dustification. Right, I still can't remember her name. I might remember it by the end of this, but yeah. If you know who I'm talking about, then you might understand what I'm talking about. Because not many people know, but there was a tropical cyclone off the coast of New York on 9/11. Now, the way the Hutchinson effect or this Tesla technology works is they need a static electricity field, which is, it's said that the tropical storm or hurricane that was off the coast of New York that wasn't reported very well, because not many people know of it, they needed that for the static electricity. And the way the Hutchinson effect works is he makes a field, a static electricity field, and he induces radio waves into that field. And what he can do is turn metal to dust, make it bend, fuse elements like wood and metal, all these strange effects that happen. Levitate things. Things that aren't normal, very unusual things that we don't consider to be normal. We would consider them to be something like sci-fi, but this is an actual real thing. Now, let me just give you a look at this Hutchinson effect, and so you just get an idea of what I'm talking about, and then I'll get back to what I was trying to explain to you and where I'm going with this whole thing. Okay.
On a subatomic level, I feel that there is a dimension shift activated by very conventional electrostatics, RF fields that I use, and Tesla waves that I use. that actually form a keyway that opens up another area of time and space that may activate the zero-point energy fields.
The remarkable works of Canadian inventor John Hutchinson has drawn widespread attention from businessmen and government scientists since 1979, when he began using ultra-high electromagnetic frequencies to transform matter in some very unusual ways. It has come to be known as the Hutchinson effect.
The objects you're seeing moving there is a form of levitation by translational movement, meaning that the objects become lighter and can float around. The heaviest being the barium cylinder that you see there with the two wires coming out of it. Tends to slide around on 7 pounds of its own weight. The physics of it is a self-resonation of what they call a ferromagnetic and piezo electric barium type name through a power amplifier and broad and narrow bands of electrical energy going into this crystal. So the applications of this in advanced applications using free energy or zero-point energy to power it would be in propulsion technologies.
Called hyperatomic resonance, which causes diamagnetism. Quantum mechanics tells us that everything in the universe is a wave and thus has its own frequency. Well, let's think about the table on that your computer monitor sits on for 1 second. Is that a wave? Well, actually, it is. The table, the board that has a frequency, usually a couple different frequencies. The more complex the geometry of the object, the more frequencies needed to describe the object. We'll start with a simple object, like a long flat board, and we'll compare it with a really, really long flat board. The man holding the longer flat board will shake his much slower than the man with a shorter one. This is because the object's frequency along a particular axis, say the one to the length, going along the length of the board, is inversely proportional to the length of the board itself. So the longer the board, the lower the frequency. The shorter the board, which it can effectively be thought of as a wavelength itself, the higher the frequency. Small objects require a much higher frequency than you could shake it at, so you could use a motor or a guitar string to vibrate them. I suggest you study everything you can on waves. I can't go over everything in this video because I'm going to have to show how they describe all these different effects. So I want you to read up on waves so you can understand how the wavelength is related to the frequency, and most importantly so you will understand resonance and bass frequency, not BASS, BASE, bass frequency, and harmonics. Harmonics like first, second, third, they go all the way up in music anyway until it gets too high for you to hear. Harmonics explains why a guitar's 12th fret is always at the exact halfway point between the bridge and the neck. You divide a wave in half and go up an octave, and multiply by 2 to go down an octave. Waves and resonance can be effectively and incredibly powerful. Take, for example, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, or Tesla's earthquake machine. At one point in his career, when Tesla was poor like me, he lived in an apartment in a tall building, and he put together an 8-watt motor which vibrated a 15-pound weight back and forth at a tunable frequency. He measured the height of the building and calculated the approximate frequency of the building itself, and played around with the motor until he tuned into that frequency. The entire building began to rock back and forth with the rhythm of the 15-pound weight due to he produced a standing wave. This is the same thing that brought down the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. You can read up more on this if you want. Basically, the owner of the building called the fire department and directed them to the strange man's room, where they found Tesla with his machine on the floor, which they promptly smashed to pieces in a panicked effort to stop the building from collapsing. They didn't know that inversing the machine would dampen the standing wave faster than actually smashing it, but luckily the building was a steel-framed building, heavily redundant structure, and did not collapse. Tesla's so-called earthquake machine was simply harmonizing with the wavelength of the entire building, producing a standing wave. In the strongman competitions, there are men who can pull trains weighing 100 tons or more. Since force equals mass times acceleration, and the masses of a locomotive is huge, the acceleration will be small, but acceleration is a change in velocity, so although it's small, it still changes the velocity of the train, beginning to speed it up and increase its velocity by little tiny bits. So after a while, you can actually get the train moving by pulling it like a lot. And that type of motion is a linear motion, but you can apply the same exact thing to a heavy, tall building, which you put wave motion into. And this is this type of resonance. The type of resonance which causes the Hutchinson effect and related effects can be explained by looking at how the frequencies compare to the molecular and atomic structure of the material itself. This phenomenon is only observed while using ultra-high frequency and incredibly high frequency Tesla waves. Why? Because they correspond to the frequency of the distance in the atoms in the structure. The distance between the atoms in a structure is equal to the wavelength, which will resonate that structure. Once you find the resonant frequency with the Tesla waves, you have effectively trapped and aligned the atoms. You can now tune the frequency a tiny bit higher, causing diamagnetism by squeezing the atoms together, restricting the electron orbits, which causes a north pole and a south pole, artificially induced diamagnetism, which causes levitation. If you lower the frequency, it pulls the atoms apart a tiny bit, which causes a phase change of matter, where a solid starts behaving like a liquid due to these strong electromagnetic forces resonating within it. This is the force that pulls aluminum bars apart and turns them into rubber spaghetti. This is the force that levitates 70-pound cannonballs. It's electromagnetic force, not a new force, nothing new. It would be scientifically possible to create a craft that could float around using this type of artificially induced diamagnetism. Only it would need to be extremely lightweight and of perfect crystalline structure. Nano-engineered quasi-crystals would do the trick. However, it cannot be used as a propulsion technology unless you can show how it doesn't violate conservation of momentum. So ion wind would probably be the best bet here.
John Hutchinson is probably the very visual proponent of the whole kind of zero-point energy movement. Zero-point energy devices could revolutionize the planet. If you can build a zero-point energy reactor about the size of your microwave oven, put it in the back of your house somewhere, you run your house. You run all its electricity needs. You don't need to pull anything off the national grid. Well, if you put that into the third world, you're going to revolutionize the third world. That is as much a threat to some people as it is a benefit.
And as far as the Hutchinson effect goes, I'm rather disturbed that the U.S. government and aerospace corporations has it. The concerns of it being used for an evil force by the military-industrial complex disturbs me quite a bit. I like to see it used for the helping of nature, because there's so much pollution going on with nature. Mankind tends to want to fight each other all the time with wars, whereas Mother Nature rolls on with great energy and power.
It's absolutely essential for the world and survival of the world that we get off petrochemicals. Failure to do so, it really threatens our national survival.
What I like about John is that he doesn't compromise. He doesn't compromise his appearance. He doesn't compromise his lifestyle. What he does is pretty unconventional. So, good on him. I'm all for that, and I wouldn't want him to change. He's fine just the way he is.
Whether building batteries or levitating objects, John Hutchinson is an eccentric enigma. Of course, virtually no mainstream scientists take John or his invention seriously. But then only a little over 100 years ago, people believed it was impossible to send a radio wave across the Atlantic. Now just imagine if this backyard scientist really has discovered a primal force of nature that could transform our world.
I am only taken seriously by the military scientists. The academic scientists really don't know what to make of me. Well, to say a lot of other people too don't know what to make of me. I'm just a different person, and I'm kind of happy with myself. I don't want to try and change myself.
His invention is that he's using a combination of Tesla coil and Van de Graaff to produce a very disruptive and lifting experiments, which in one case, for example, actually lifts a 19-pound bushing toward the ceiling just from electromagnetic fields. Now, when we analyze that, we find that there's position versus time graph that we can plot, and also the velocity versus time. But when we actually analyze the acceleration versus time, it's an increasing straight line. So we're forced as scientists to admit that we have a third derivative effect, which, from my mind, actually lends itself to an anomalous new force, which I call hyperforce, because we have to take a derivative of that to finally get a flat, straight line, a constantly increasing acceleration. So the Hutchinson effect has been used as a benchmark for a comparison to many other high voltage propulsion devices. Electrogravity, in other words.
Okay, so you sort of getting what I'm talking about? Because the lady I was talking about that was talking about the dustification and saying that on 9/11 the buildings came down, they turned to dust, metal was twisted, all those sorts of things that the Hutchinson effect seems to be able to do as well. But if you noticed, when John Hutchinson, I'm pretty sure his name is, when Mr. Hutchinson was saying that, he was explaining about how it works. He said it's a static electric field, and he induces radio waves into it, as I was saying earlier. So, what am I getting at with 9/11? Well, with 9/11, there was a static electricity field offshore, which was that storm, that hurricane that wasn't reported very well. Not many people know about it. See, they needed that to be there to induce the field, the static electricity field, and then they pumped radio waves in, which, you know, affected the building in the Hutchinson effect way, Tesla effect way, with 0-point energy, and then they manipulated it and made the buildings turn to dust and fall at the speed of, you know, falling objects. Yeah. And he's done like 700 or something different levitation. I think it's 700. Might be 75. I think it's 750 or 75. Enough to, you know, make it irrefutable. To government, there's even a video, if you want to look at it, where apparently Barack Obama gets a bit freaked out by one of his machines, 0-point energy machine. Yeah, so I'll just show you where last year, I think it was last year, on the anniversary, they announced, well, they released the information about the cyclone that was off New York, Hurricane Erin it was called, and so just give you a look at that, and so you can see that what I'm talking about is true.
Today is September 11th, obviously, and conjuring up memories of what happened 14 years ago today. I want to show you, though, just to the east of New York, what our satellites were picking up September 11th, 2001. That is Hurricane Erin. At the time, it was a Category 1 hurricane. And if we look at what was happening just about 400 miles to the west of there in lower Manhattan, this is from our MODIS satellite from NASA. And you can actually, if you look very closely there in lower Manhattan, you can see the smoke coming down from the Twin Towers there on September 11th. That very brisk northerly flow, a cold front had moved through and deflected this hurricane from threatening, or at least getting to New York City, but you can still see the smoke there on our satellite. An incredible picture there in New York.
Okay, so see how he said there's a low pressure system holding it off the coast and all this sort of stuff, and so what they were doing was they were manipulating the weather, I'd say with HARP, and maybe some of those satellites that aren't in space, they're just up there using resonance as well to float around. To induce this field with the static electricity off the coast and manipulate the weather patterns, weather systems, to get the perfect conditions, I would say. Well, what I'm getting at is this storm, this new one, hurricane, it seems to be setting itself up off of Washington, and I think they're going to do it again. I think it's going to be like it's going to be close, like within a day or two. Because if you notice in the news reports I've shown you, like this one here, Hermine, this hurricane is going to come up the coast and get about off Washington and stall. They say it's going to just sit there for a little while. Sort of the same thing that Hurricane Erin did on 9/11. I've been having a feeling for a long time about September, about something happening. I've been telling people about it for at least a month. Sorry, dog licking at himself. Keep it down, please. Okay. And so they're setting up the conditions, I believe. And if you look at this here, this is like this morning. It would have been tonight or last night in America. Okay, so it was the 2nd of September that evening. And as you can notice, look at the 3 lows across the top and the 3 highs across the bottom. It's not really, I don't know, it's like they're lined up across the top, across the bottom, and then you've got the hurricane at the very end of them all. So it looks controlled to me. It doesn't look normal or natural at all. Yeah, so I'm just a bit worried, and I'm just trying to give you guys a heads up. So I hope nothing does happen, but I'll say they're going to try and pull off another fake terrorist attack, probably bring down the White House or something, you know, some martial law for yous. And isn't your government going on holiday soon? Like real soon, if they haven't already done it. As you've got an election coming up, man, this could change so much. Get people to think in the way they want them to, like they did on 9/11, to pull off some agenda they've got going. Either way, if it happens, whatever happens, if something does happen, people are going to get hurt. All for their greed, power, greed. It's all greed. Whether it's power, whether it's money, doesn't matter what it is. It's all about greed. Selfishness. It's not about giving you anything. It's about taking something away. Usually your rights, someone else's country and you know, assets or whatever. Laws, governing bodies. Anything could come from this. And yeah, so I was wondering what was going to happen, like if anything was going to happen, and this looks like something setting up. It's standing out to me. That's all. I'm not. You know what I'm like. I'm not going to say that it's definite. If you know me, you know I'm like that. But I do like to look at things. I do like to observe things, and yeah, this is scary. I believe they're gonna destroy the government. I know that's gonna happen. They're gonna destroy the government so that they can make their one world government. That's prophecy. And I believe that, yeah, this is the beginning of something big. I pray that I'm wrong, and you know, nothing does happen, because people usually get hurt. But at the same time, it brings this system closer to the end, which is, yeah, I pray for that more. Okay, everyone. I hope you all stay safe. And yeah, if anyone hears anything that happens, whether it's to do with this or not, anything, false flag, anything, okay, fake shootings, whatever, new laws, all that sort of stuff, I want to know. So don't hesitate to comment or email or something. I don't care how you do it, just get it out there. If you'd like to see me in the future, I'm quite frequently live on Free Chan. That's Free Chan, as in free channel. Okay, live, and that's a channel where we talk about different topics, mainly observable topics. Some topics are out of my league, only because of moral reasons and my own beliefs. So yeah, I'm not always there, but you might be able to catch me there. And if you can, hit me up with a question there maybe, or give me some information there maybe, or something, or just join in the conversation. Okay, so I'll just say, as I always do, I love you guys. Please be safe. God bless you all. Bye.